So Briarwood Reserve, talk to us a little bit about this project, why you chose it, and what you're learning from it.
So this is part of this reserve model that we have been building out. So again, when we are having those initial conversations of, hey, when do rates go up? How does the market look? Obviously, it's going to be a lot of pain because again, remember, we are selling our assets like in 2 years at a price that we didn't think we would hit in year 10.
Yeah,
You understand?
yeah.
So part of it is humility to realize, yeah, I'm good. I'm not that good.
Hmm.
Right? I
Right,
didn't increase value that much.
right.
This just is a confluence of events happening. So while that conversation was going on, what we were also thinking was, well, look, if you're doing a typical wrap or podium style product, and by the way, we built a beautiful product, 7 stories, blue on the rain, right on a lake in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But we were thinking, okay, here the hard costs are X. But
Yeah.
if the market ever turns or your customer is even more price sensitive, what is a way for us to basically generate similar or better returns with a lower cost structure? Because you got to realize we're not in tech where
Hmm.
you could get 1,000x return. So it doesn't matter if you bought it at $2 or $10 because, man, you're just going to become a billionaire.
Sure.
Here, there is finite upside. No matter how much you improve your property, your customer can only pay so much.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you've got gold toilets. It doesn't matter. So what we started thinking is, look, everybody's doing these wrap and podium style products. Your hard costs of construction are anywhere 160 to 200,000 a unit. Then you add your soft costs and fees and land. Man, your exit has got to be 250, $300,000 to make sense. And that's
Hmm.
a price point where you may or may not have a buyer, depending on market conditions.
Hmm.
So, what can we do knowing what we know about the business? So, the first thing right off the top we were seeing when we were developing our couple of first wrap and podium products was the amenities that we were putting in, like the swimming pools, the yoga bars, the gyms, all of that, because supposedly all the renters need this thing, right?
Right.
We were realizing they were adding anything when we did the math, 15 to $40,000 per unit. These things are
Yeah.
expensive amenities to
Right.
add. You can't just add underground parking and not incur any costs.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we see these costs, but now when we track our metrics, we see hardly anybody uses the gym. I
Hmm.
mean, everybody likes to say they have a gym. Man, we got like 5% of the people actually using the gym.
Huh.
Okay, that's good. Your customers want something, but look, I also want a lot of things. I'm not willing to pay for them. So what would happen if we strip away some of these amenities? But again, if you strip away these amenities, but you still have a 7 story product, elevator in and of itself is expensive, you're still expensive
Yes.
construction. So now I was in Atlanta at the time. I was looking at some of these 80s vintage deals. We were bidding on some deals.
Hmm.
And back in the day, and we totally ripped off developers from back in the day. Back in the day when land costs were cheaper,
Right.
what was happening is you would have a 20-plex, 30-plex, 12-plex, 16-plex, multiple buildings on a site.
Right.
So you'd go from building to building to building as opposed to being on one building.
Yeah.
And we realized in the Midwest, look, our land costs are still cheaper. They're not like Dallas where you got to get 30,000 to 40,000 a unit just on land cost. Our land costs are 6 to 9,000 a unit, maybe 10,000 a unit. So we have the luxury of having these buildings built, number one. Again, I'm summarizing a very long conversation.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That that reduced our hard cost of construction down to the low to mid 130,000 a unit.
Huh.
So right off the top, we are saving anywhere from like 30 to 80,000 a unit on
Hmm.
hard costs of construction. And our rents, by the way, when we did the comp analysis and everything, our rents were only going down by 7 or 12%.
Hmm.
Because you got to realize our interiors, we are beautiful interiors.
Yeah.
They are Instagram worthy interiors. Like you go in, floor to ceiling windows, ample light coming in, great fixtures. So we didn't compromise on the interiors. So what we realized is, look, if we can save anywhere from 30 to $80,000 on hard costs and not take a commensurate decline on revenue, man, you just shut up and build these all day long
Yeah.
because it's just a math problem then. Yeah, you get less revenue, but you also spend less money, significantly less money.
Hmm.
So that was the impetus of what happened. And what we realized over the years is because we were building these buildings, these are anywhere from 14 to 18 plex buildings, there's certain other things that come into play. You don't have to have two hallways, as an example.
Right.
When you don't have two hallways, you are able to maximize your floor usage, rentable square footage. You are able to maximize because if you have bigger buildings, when you have two hallways, People don't realize that's a lot of rentable square footage per property that you're not getting any rent on because nobody's
Yeah.
going to give you rent for a hallway,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
now you got one set of stairs, one small hallway. You are maximizing your rentable square footage. Number one. Number two, what's happening is because we are developing these in a way that's very cost efficient, they are also very energy efficient buildings. When we do that, we get a lot of tax credits on top of the tax write-offs because the newer buildings, if you build them to a certain code, you get tax credits. So now what you're doing is you're building at a lower cost. You're a more efficient building right off the top. And then you're getting more tax credits and more tax write-offs.
Yeah.
So that's when it took us a little time. We put those pieces together. Now, basically, we just want to roll them out. And again, at the back of our head, because we were all business guys, wanted a product that was basically like, the Ford factory. Everybody's just turning a widget. Nobody's making the whole
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
And the problem I feel a lot of times with developers and architects is developers want to build monuments to their ego.
Yeah.
They want to have this cool building. Now, the cool building might not be making any money, but they want to tell people, I built that building.
Right.
And we're like, that's pretty good. We just want the money. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you avoid, so 14 to 18 unit buildings, are you
And
avoiding the
now they're
elevator as
also
well?
44. By the way, in
Yeah.
some buildings, they're also 44, depending on the site layout plan.
Okay. That's so smart. I mean, it makes sense. So you have cheaper land in the Midwest, and you're able to use a model that you kind of stole from the 80s, which was just to spread out a little bit. So to have cheaper expenses, lower hard costs when you're building by spreading out, having more buildings as opposed to fewer buildings, and avoiding all of the infrastructure issues that come with that. That makes
Yeah.
total sense. Can you talk a little? There was for our listeners who don't know what a wrap or a podium product is, can you describe that for us?
Oh, yeah. Well, if your listeners don't know what a wrap or podium is, but let's assume they live in Texas as an example, they have seen this. Wrap is you have a parking lot and you wrap the building around it. So this is why where you see a lot of times people will go into a parking lot, park a car, and you have like 12 exits in your parking lot
Yeah,
because you're going through various ends of the building. So parking lot, and you've wrapped like your apartment units around it,
I love it.
right?
Okay.
Podium is you literally build a podium. Usually it's cement. Yes, some people say wood, but I've never really understood that.
Yeah,
Where cement mostly, and then you build your building on top.
I
So
see.
think of the bottom. It could be like your leasing office. I guess if you're really creative and you want to monetize it, you could put some shops there, maybe.
Yeah. Hmm.
But you have this edifice, then you build on top.
I love it.
So those are the two prevalent ones. But again, you got to realize what we are doing there is not what we are doing when we're looking at Dallas and Atlanta
Mhm.
developers
Right.
because this is a situational thing. You have to kind of you this is not like the world's greatest plan that works under all scenarios.
Yeah.
You have to be very cognizant of the environment and your cost structure.
Yeah, the land is cheaper in the places that you're working, so you can build you can develop in an entirely different way than if you're in a larger space where land is more
Okay,
expensive.
and to give you an example, the other underappreciated financial aspect of this thing is because we're building multiple buildings, from a risk management point of view, we're delivering first units in month 8 to 10. So
Hmm.
first units are being delivered month 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Now you have people moving in because if you have a typical, like say whatever, 200 unit apartment building, you
Yeah.
have to build the whole thing. Then you get a certificate of occupancy. Then people start moving in. Every developer in the world will tell you they can do it in 16 to 18 months. Nobody develops that in 16 to 18 months. It's like a 22 to
Yeah.
20 to 22 months process minimum.
Yeah.
So think about it this way. 20 to 22 month mark is when people start moving in.
Yeah.
Physical, your cash as a developer starts hitting your bank account.
Right.
For us, our first person starts moving in month 8 to 10. And then we build, we lease, we build, we lease. So
Yeah.
for us, by the time we're delivering our entire product in month 14, which is what we have done, by the time we're delivering our last building, we've already leased 60 to 80% of the buildings
Yeah.
before us. So we get to stability much faster, cash flows much faster. And what then happens is we are able to refinance much faster.
Absolutely. Well, the other values are that you're able to, if there's any issue with the way that things are working as you're building, you'll find that from leasers of the
Oh,
first
much,
buildings.
much
You
earlier,
could
much
adjust.
earlier.
And then finally, from a risk management standpoint on the back end, you have someone, tip a candle over and burn the place down. You didn't lose all of your income and potentially
Yeah.
all the exposure of 200 different units in the same building. You lost the income and the associated with that one building, and you can
Yeah.
navigate that in a lot smaller way. So
And the other aspect on top of that also is that when you're doing these buildings one at a time, when you have people moving in, you are seasoning your income so much quicker.
Yeah.
When, I mean, people in business know seasoning income is, well, how long has this stream of income been in existence? Because, yeah, everybody can get revenue for 1 month. Can you get it for a year
Right.
and 10 years? When you start seasoning your income, your banks have basically said, initially they were skeptical. They are now seeing that in 18 months, most of our income is seasoned.
Yep.
Now, not only, even in today's market, where every developer will tell you it's much harder, blah, 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 we are still getting loans at way more competitive prices at a higher leverage point. I mean, we're typically between 60 to 65%
Yep.
than our competitors are,
Mm.
because our cash conversion, like how fast do we go from a hole in the ground to actually generating cash, is probably like two-thirds of what the next guy is.
I
Like
love
we
it.
are
Yeah.
so much more faster. So banks now are more willing to lend us more money at better terms.
I love it. I mean, it makes so much sense from a holistic perspective, from an intelligent perspective, from a money making perspective, from a stability perspective, and from a risk management perspective.